So Wuthering Waves is one of those games where the first time that you play it, it might be a bit overwhelming for you. Let's say you're a new player, or maybe you're coming back to the game for the 3.0 patch with all the new amazing characters, and you decide to search for Wuthering Waves gameplay to see, well, how the gameplay looks, and the first thing that you see is this. Yeah, to be honest, I have no idea what's going on in here as well. Like, what is going on? So in this video, we're going to talk about everything you need to know about the combat of Wuthering Waves. We're gonna start from the basic stuff, and then we're gonna talk about the more complex mechanics as well, like what are intro and outro skills, how you should use your echoes, and also I'm going to give you some tips where even if you're not a new player and you've been playing for a while, you might not know about these things. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So let's start with the basics. Every character in the game has 6 main parts to their kit. The first thing that they have is their basic attack, where it's just a normal attack where you can just attack the enemy. And for most characters, it's nothing special. Your plunging attack, your heavy attack, and your dodge attack are also mostly considered normal attack. The second thing that you have is your skill, where after you use it, it's gonna go into a cooldown. Now, some characters can have multiple skills, like for example Changli, where she has 2 skills. And although it's a bit rare, some characters don't have a cooldown on their skill. And after our skill, we have our ultimate, or what it's called, Resonance Liberation in the game. And this is where most of the budget for the character goes. Now, your ultimate also has a cooldown, but more importantly, it has a resonance cost, which is basically the energy around it. The amount of energy that you need to fill up your resonance liberation for each character is different. Some characters fill up their ultimate really fast, some characters need a lot of resonance energy to use their ultimate, some characters don't. And you can fill up your resonance liberation by doing any type of damage to the enemies. So yes, by doing damage to the enemies, you're going to fill up your ultimate. Now, the amount of damage that you do will not make a difference on how much energy you get for your ultimate, but if you do kill an enemy, then you will get extra energy for your ultimate. And the damage that you do from your echo also counts toward that, but we're gonna talk about the echoes later. Another thing is that you don't actually have to use your character to deal damage for them to fill up their ultimate. Whenever a character deals damage to the enemies, they're also going to fill up the ultimate or the liberation of everyone in your team. Like for example, as you can see here, my ultimate with Changli is almost full. Now I go to my Havoc Rover, use my skill, and when I go back to my ultimate, you can see that it's full. You can see if your ultimate is full or not by this top circle that has a check mark on it. If it's there, that means that your ultimate is full with that character. And so because of this, some characters are really good in the game because they can fill up a lot of energy. Like for example, Zeiji uses her skill a lot in her kit, so because of that, she just fills up the ultimate of everyone in the team really fast. You can also fill up your resonance energy with some other ways, like for example, some weapons have a condition where they're going to give you extra resonance energy by doing specific things. And some characters' kit will tell you if you're going to get extra resonance energy if you use that part of their kit. Like for example, Baiji's skill is going to give her extra resonance energy even if the skill doesn't deal damage to enemies. So up until now, everything has been really simple. Most of the things that I talked about are also in other gacha games, but from here, it's gonna get a lot more interesting. Let's talk about your forte. Each character has their own unique forte for them to use, which makes each character unique in their own way. You can see your forte gauge at the bottom of your screen or at the top of your health bar. And there are 2 things that you need to know about the forte of your character. 1, how to fill it up. 2, how to use it. To know how you can fill up your character's forte, unfortunately, you have to read. Yeah, sorry about that. To know how you can fill up your forte, just go to your character's menu, go to your forte tab, and click on your forte circuit. And when you scroll down, you can see that it tells you how you can fill up your forte. For example, for Verena, it says you can get 1 stack of your forte by doing basic attack, your skill, or your intro skill. We'll get to that later. So now, as you can see, by doing my normal attack, I just got 1 stack of my forte. And how you can use your forte, again, you can read the description for your forte circuit to see how you can use it, or a simpler way is by looking at the right side of your forte. The right side of your forte shows you one of the ways that you can use your forte. For example, on Carlotta, you can see at the right side of my forte, it says to hold down left click to use it. So if I hold down left click when I have my forte, she's gonna do this. Another example, for Morphe, it says to press E. So when I press E, it's just gonna use my forte, just like that. If this button is transparent, that means you cannot use it yet. So your forte is probably not filled up enough. And if you try to use the button when you don't have your forte, well, it's just not gonna activate it. Now, for almost every character in the game, their forte is the most important part of their kit. It's either going to be the main part of their kit, or it's a large part of it. So if you're going to use your character, make sure to know how you can fill up your forte and then how to use it. Another thing is that the button at the right side of your forte shows one of the ways that you can use your forte, and it might not be the best way to use it. For example, for Verena, it says to use my heavy attack to use it, but instead, by jumping and pressing basic attacks, it's just a faster way to use it. So be careful with that as well. And the last parts of character's kit are going to be their intro skill and their outro skill. But to know this, you need to first know about concerto. Now, what is concerto? In the game, there are two ways that you can switch to another character. First is the normal way, where you just switch into them and nothing interesting really happens. And you usually don't want to do this. Usually. The second way is to use your concerto to switch to another character. You can see how much concerto you have at the left side of your forte or your HP bar. When your forte fills up, you're gonna hear that bell sound, and your characters at the right side of your screen are gonna start to glow. This means your concerto is full, and if you switch to another character, you're gonna use your concerto. So now if I switch to Carlotta, as you can see, I'm gonna do this special animation, and some things are gonna start happening. Whenever you switch when your concerto is full, you're gonna activate the outro skill of the character that is living and the intro skill of the character that you're switching into. So in this case, I activated my Zeiji's outro skill and my Carlotta's intro skill. You can fill up your character's concerto by using their kit. If you go to the character's kit and go to skill detail, it's going to show you how much concerto energy you're going to fill up with that attack. You will also recover extra concerto energy by doing perfect dodges or parrying the enemies, which we'll get into later. Now, when I say the character's kit, that means when you use other characters, it's not gonna get filled up, and also when you use your echo, it's also not gonna fill up your concerto unless it's been said in the echo's description. Now, there are also some weapons that'll help you get extra concerto, which the most famous weapon for this is the variation. And as you can see, by using my skill, I get extra 12 concerto energy for this character. And to get your character's concerto filled, you need 100 concerto energy. You can also see how much concerto energy you have by looking at the bottom right circle of your character's icon. A couple of things that you might have noticed is that in my photo tab, there is also a couple of other things. Now, the side parts are just stat increases, and they're just gonna give you extra crit rate, attack, HP. It depends on the character on what it gives you. But for the middle part, it's actually a perk, or what is called an inherent skill for your character's kit. But these two skills are really easy to get, so whenever you see someone talking about a character, they're just gonna include this in their character's kit as well. You can level up your normal attack, resonance skill, forte circuit, resonance liberation, and intro skill to increase their numbers. So if they're doing damage, they're gonna deal more damage. If they're going to heal, they're gonna do more healing. If they're gonna give shield, they're gonna give more shield. And for most characters, you want to level up some parts of their kit. Don't level up everything, alright? Because characters don't really use all parts of their kit. But as you can see here, your outro skill is at max level, so you don't need to level it up, which is a really good thing. And also, there are specific damage types in the game. As you can see here, there's resonance skill, basic attack, heavy attack, and liberation. And even though you see the normal attack, resonance skill, and resonance liberation in the character's kit, they're not really equal. Okay, let me explain it. So take for example Zani, alright? Most of the damage that you do with Zani is when you're using her ultimate. So that means you want to have more resonance liberation, right? Well, no, because if you go to her resonance liberation, you can see that it's going to be considered heavy attack damage. The same thing also applies to Carlotta. You can see at the bottom that it says it's going to be considered resonance skill damage. So even though you're using your resonance liberation, that doesn't mean the damage is going to be considered resonance liberation. So be careful of that when you're building your characters. Now, the next thing that we're going to talk about is the rotations for your characters. You're gonna see this word a lot when you're searching for a character on YouTube and also on websites, which basically this word rotation means how you're supposed to use that character. And it's a unique thing for every character. Let's take a look at, for example, Sanhua. Sanhua's rotation is basically when you switch into her, you're gonna use your skill and ultimate, then use your forte, as you can see, and then after that, use your echo and switch off. Now let's take a look at another example, which is Shorekeeper. With Shorekeeper, you're just supposed to use your basic attacks, skill, and forte, and it doesn't matter what order you use them, but you just have to use them until you get close to the end of your concerto, and then use your ultimate. And the reason that you want to use her ultimate at the end is because her ultimate buffs everyone in the team, but it has a timer on it. So you want to have the most amount of time with her ultimate while using other characters. So you see the difference between these two characters. One of them you just have to use your skill, ultimate, and then your forte, and then switch off, and you're not even supposed to use your basic attacks on Sanhua unless absolutely necessary. And on the other hand, with Shorekeeper, you have to use it. You have to use your skill, your basic attacks, your forte if you have to get your concerto up, and then use your ultimate and echo and then switch off. So in short, the word rotation means how you're supposed to use your character. And unless you want your characters to do absolutely nothing, you should probably learn and understand the rotation. Some characters are really free with their rotations, like as I explained, Shorekeeper, while some other characters you need to follow some specific way of playstyle with them. Maybe you shouldn't use their skill, maybe you should save your ultimate, maybe with this character you have to use your basic attacks more than anything else. It just depends on the characters and the playstyle of that character and how you're using that character in your teams. So now that you know everything about your characters, let's talk about your team. Now, I'm not talking about how to build your team, but instead how you can play your team. There are mainly two types of playstyles that you can use for your teams. The first one, which I like to call it the linear way, it's the one where you start with one character, which is mostly going to be your healer. You use their kit, get their concerto, and then switch to the next character, which it's going to be your sub DPS or your hybrid character, which they're going to deal some damage. And also, after you get your concerto, you're going to switch to your third character, which is mostly going to be your main DPS character. You deal a lot of damage with them, use their kit, and then after that you go back to your first character and just start again. And this is how most of the characters in the game are designed for, and it's mostly because of their outro skills. The thing is, with the outro skills that are going to buff the next character, most of them have a restriction on it. And you can see on Zeji that it says that it's going to increase glacial or ice damage and skill damage for 14 seconds or until they are switched out. So that means if I use my Zeji's outro skill on Carlotta and then switch off from Carlotta before 40 seconds passes, well, I'm gonna lose that buff. So with most teams, you're gonna play it like this. And it's the easiest way that you can use your team. A couple of examples for these teams are Carlotta, Zeji, Shorekeeper, or Galbrena, Chiyuan, and Verena, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of characters and teams that use this specific way of playing. Now, there is also a second way that you can play with them, and it's the quickswap way. The fastest way that I can explain quickswapping is whenever your character has a long animation in their kit, you can switch to another character in the middle of that animation and let the character finish it on their own. Like for example, one of the best characters for this is Changli. As you can see, her skill is really long and I can't do anything in the middle of it. So I can just use my skill and switch to my other character and she just does the whole thing on herself. There's a lot of ways that you can quick swap with characters, but generally you should do it with animations that are a bit long and you don't need to do anything in the middle of it. Now this type of playstyle is just an optional playstyle that you can use with your teams. If you can get used to it, then you're gonna do more damage, but at the same time it's a lot harder on some characters. And there's not that many characters or teams that are designed for them to be used in a quick swap style. But even if a team is not designed for a quick swap style, you can still use it in your rotations. Now you can use it really small, like sometimes switching between your support and your sub DPS to save sometimes, or you can switch between your characters non-stop. But then again, it's just an option. If you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. But if you do decide to get used to it and practice it maybe with your favorite teams, then maybe you can clear some of the end game that you normally wouldn't be able to clear it with the linear style. But then again, some characters are just played better in the linear style compared to the quick swap style. So what I'm trying to say here is it depends on the character whether quick swap is necessary for them. So far it hasn't been necessary for most characters. The next thing that you need to know is your echoes. Each character has their own echoes that they want to use, and well, they also give some major buffs to your character. Some of the echoes just give you their buff by just having that echo in your main slot, while some other echoes, which they're generally the worst echoes, give you their buff by using them. So you need to use the echo before you use that characters, or at least before they do their most damage. But then again, with the most recent echoes, you just get the buff from them even if you don't use them. But they do damage and also they recover your energy, so it's better to use them. Now there are mainly two types of echoes that you're going to use. The first one is where you just use them. It's not going to cancel your animation, it just happens automatically when you use your echo button. The second one is when you transform into that echo, and most of the time they're going to have this long animation. For the first type, if the echo that you have to use is a passive one or it's not going to interrupt your own animation, then you just have to use it whenever you want to in the middle of your rotation. You can use it at the beginning of your rotation, at the middle, or at the end of it. As long as you're doing some damage with it and also recovering some energy from it, it really doesn't matter when you're using it. The only exception to this are the echoes that are going to buff the entire team, which for example, the fallacy of no return turn, which in this case you want to use it at the end of your rotation or at the end of you using their kit so that you can have the most time with that buff for other characters. And for the echoes that you transform into them, you mainly want to use them at the end of your rotation, and you want to mainly use it and then switch to your next character. That way you're not stuck on the echo animation and you can start playing with your next character right away. Now there might be some exceptions to this, but if you follow these rules and know what your characters are doing, then you're gonna be fine. Now the last thing that we're going to talk about are the enemies and how you're going to interact with them. First thing that you need to know is that most enemies have a resistance to an element. If you take a look at the right side of enemy's icon, before you go into the combat, you can see what elements they are, and they're going to take less damage from that element. So if an enemy is arrow, they're going to take less damage from arrow, so you don't want to do that. Now if an enemy has the physical icon, that means they're not resistant to any elements. When enemies are going to attack you, you can perform a perfect dodge, and that just means dodging when they're attacking. Kinda obvious. Now the perfect dodge window is really forgiving in this game, and after you do a perfect dodge, you're going to recover extra concerto for your character, which for some characters it's a really good thing, mainly for support characters and healers. And then some enemies have a parry attack, which this is mostly for boss enemies, but some other enemies can have it as well. When an enemy is going to perform a parry attack, there are going to be two circles appearing on that enemy, and the big circle is going to get smaller and smaller, and when it touches the smaller circle, by attacking that enemy, you can parry that attack. And you can parry the enemies with any type of attacks. It doesn't matter if it's your basic attack, if it's your skill or your ultimate. Just make sure that it damages the enemies, and also your character can actually parry the enemies. Some rectifier and pistol characters from the early version of the game cannot parry the enemies with some of their attacks, which is weird, I know, but nowadays that's not really the case, to be honest. Now what happens when you parry the enemy? Well, you're going to recover extra concerto for your character, while at the same time decreasing the stun bar or the vibration strength of that enemy by a lot. Vibration strength, or stun bar is what I call it, is this bar under their health. If it reaches the 0, that enemy is going to be stunned for a while, and they're not going to attack you for that duration, which is really helpful against bosses. So if you can parry an enemy, you should always go for it. But also these parry attacks are also some of the more dangerous attacks of the enemies. Some of them are grab attacks where they can take you and deal a lot of damage to you and waste a lot of your time. So be careful with that as well. In the next patch, which is the 3.0 patch, there's also going to be a new combat mechanic added to the game, which is called the off-tune mechanic. Which this mechanic is basically there is now going to be a shield icon appearing at the left side of enemy's HP bar, and by attacking enemies, this off-tune is going to build up. And when it's full, your character can perform a finisher on the enemy. And any character can perform this finisher on the enemy. It's not just the new characters, fortunately, which this finisher is called Tune Break, where it deals more damage, and also the enemy attack is going to get interrupted as well, which is really good. And it also reduces their vibration strength as well, and after you use that finisher, you can build up the off tune again. Now again, as I said, even though every character is going to have this mechanic added to their kit, probably the newer characters are going to take advantage of this new effect more than the older characters, but we have to see. And yeah, that is everything you need to know for the combat of Wuthering Waves as a new player. Thank you all so much for watching the video till now. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll be back for another video. Bye bye.